Hey y'all. Yeah, in front of the camera, 2 videos in a row. Nobody's more surprised than I am. I got a couple of questions on my last 2 videos. That is climb cutting versus conventional cutting, and my list of suggestions as far as bits for the beginner, what you should have on hand. And I figured no time was better to go ahead and do a channel update while I'm doing that. So that's what this week's video is about. First of all, I know my video on suggested bits that the beginner should have on hand was pretty long-winded. I tried to keep it pretty short, but I failed miserably as usual. And as long-winded as it was, thanks to Peter Pasuelo over at CNC Nuts YouTube channel, he reminded me that I completely and totally forgot about 1/8 inch cutting diameter bits. And I did. So, thank you to Peter. Yes, for certain, when it comes to pocketing out holes, say, smaller than 1/4 of an inch, you're going to need an 1/8 inch diameter bit. So I would recommend an 1/8 inch diameter upcut and an 1/8 inch diameter downcut bit. Now, I've got an example of each right here. We'll get into those in just a second. I've put links in the description box below to these particular bits, as well as a couple of alternatives to let you see what's out there. Now, the bits I'm using are 1/8 inch shank because I have a 1/8 inch collet for my router. But I've also put links down below to bits with 1/4 inch shank, but with a 1/8 inch cutting diameter, for those of you who don't have or can't get a hold of a 1/8 inch collet. So let's go ahead and zoom in on those bits, and we'll get that taken care of. Okay, let's get a little bit closer here on these little 1/8 bits. Now, this one here is a 1/8 inch diameter upcut bit, and this one here being an 1/8 inch diameter downcut bit. Same as those 1/4 inch bits that I showed you in that other video. Now, the thing to pay attention to on these bits are the cutting length. You'll find that most of them, the cutting length is 1/2 of an inch. These would be used for flat area clearance on a VCarve, pocketing holes or small pockets, but generally speaking, not for profile cuts through thicker materials. They do not have enough of a cutting area to cut through a 3/4 inch piece of stock. Now, you'll notice this one here that I have set in my 1/8 collet has this little orange collar around it. This bit, the manufacturer color codes the diameter of them, and 1/8 just happens to be orange. That collar is for identification of the bit. As I say, the 1/8 bits are orange, but it's also a stop so that you know how far that bit needs to go into that collet before it can be tightened down. Now, that doesn't leave a lot of bit sticking up out of that collet, but it would be very easy to not put enough bit in the collet or put way too much in the collet. So that's what these rings are technically used for. Again, this is a downcut bit, and again, the cutting length on it is only about a 1/2 inch. Now, you can get them with a 3/4 inch cutting length, and I believe you can also order them with a 1 inch. I don't have any of those myself. I don't use these for profile cuts. I use these for cutting pockets, drilling holes, and for flat area clearance tool when I'm V-carving. So I would highly recommend a 1/8 downcut like this and a 1/8 upcut like this. I put links in the description box below, as I said before, to these 1/8 inch shank bits, and I also put links to some 1/8 cutting diameter bits that have a 1/4 inch shank diameter. You'll have your choice there whether you have a 1/8 inch collet or not. So the next thing I need to clear up goes back to my video on climb cutting versus conventional cutting. And I created a little bit of confusion when I omitted some information when I was talking about controlling the pass depth in a VCarve toolpath when you have no option to adjust the number of passes. But for that, we're going to have to go in, get on the computer, and I'll show you in VCarve. And I'll put a link to that video up here so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, that confusion comes in when it got time to calculate the toolpaths, and I was demonstrating how to control the depth of cut in a VCarve toolpath. Now, I have a couple of vectors here that I'm going to use to demonstrate this. And if I want to VCarve this space in between these two circles here, I would go ahead and select both vectors, click on the VCarve engraving toolpath. Now, I'm not going to use a flat depth here. I'll just use a standard 90-degree V-bit. What I should have said was there are two methods for controlling the depth of cut for this circle, for instance, depending upon the grain direction and the material that you're cutting. One way is to use the edit button. The other way is to change the info in the tool database. Now, this I don't recommend. That's because I'll go ahead and open the tool database. With that 90-degree V-bit selected, we see here the pass depth on this bit is 1/4 of an inch. I'll get into this further in another video when I talk about setting up tools in the tool database. But basically, I set my pass depths to an absolute maximum of 1/2 the cutting diameter. That's the method I was taught, and that's the method that I use. Back in this context here, if I were to change the pass depth here, click Apply, then OK, it would change this pass depth until I come in and change it again. Well, I don't want to do that. I just want to change it for this particular toolpath. I don't want to make this change for every toolpath that I calculate with this bit from now on. So I'll cancel this and get out of it. If I just want to change that pass depth for this toolpath, I'll click Edit, and it'll open up the tool info, and here I can change that pass depth. For instance, if I only wanted to cut 1/8 of an inch maximum per pass, I would change this to 0.125, click OK, and now when I calculate that toolpath, it's going to run pass depths of 0.125 inches. Now let me go back, close this up, go back out here, select these, do another VCarve toolpath, and if I come over here and click Select, I can look at that 90-degree V-bit, and my pass depth here for that bit hasn't changed. Again, that pass depth was changed for this toolpath only. It did not make a permanent change to the pass depth for the bit. So I can calculate that toolpath and then preview all. They'll both cut about the same. It's just that this one would only cut 1/8 of an inch per pass, and if that means it has to make 2 passes, so be it. So I hope that cleared up any confusion that we may have on how to control the depth per pass in a VCarve toolpath when you don't have the option down here to change the number of passes. You would edit the bit, make that change here in using the Edit Tool button, and not over here in the tool database itself. So hopefully that clears up the confusion, and again, I apologize for completely and totally leaving that out of the presentation. So about all there is left to talk about, well, I've got 2 subjects to talk about. One is of course, I'm one half of a podcast called Trampled Underfoot. Now that's me and Eloy Escojedo of Rockin' Woodworks. We get together and we record a little bowl session and we talk about life, the universe, everything, growing up a kid in the 60s and 70s, or in Eloy's case, a kid in the 70s and 80s, and kind of comparing and contrasting our life experience. You know, him as a full-time Florida resident, and me as a general all-around West Coast guy who's traveled in Europe a little bit and who's lived in 14 states and visited, countless more. So it's a fun time. It's a great time. It's absolutely not maker created. I've put a link in the description box below to the Scratched Podcast Network, where our podcast is hosted. And you can go back there and take a look at all of the past episodes and check us out on Spreaker or your favorite podcatcher, your favorite podcast platform. We're on iTunes. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify. We're all over the place. It's a fun time. It's not CNC related. It's not maker related. It's two guys, two friends talking and having fun. Speaking of the Scratch Podcast Network, see how I did that? Segued right into it. Not so smoothly. I'd like to cordially invite you to come by the Scratched YouTube channel this Wednesday night, Halloween night, at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, for the Scratched Podcast Halloween Spectacular, or something like that. We're going to be doing a live YouTube stream Wednesday night, and it'll be the normal guys from the Scratched Podcast. We're talking Doc Jared Hildebrand. We're talking Ryan Bitters. We're talking Brian Bales and Eloy Escojedo. They've also invited me from Trampled Underfoot and Michael Lawing from Hella 90s podcast to join in and partake of some of the fun. Now, I have to warn you that this is not CNC related. It's not maker related. It's a bunch of guys getting together, having fun. We'll be swapping Halloween stories, I'm sure, and who knows where which direction the discussion is going to go. Now, I'm going to say parental discretion may be advised because sometimes there are some grown-up themes, let's say. Nothing lewd or lascivious or anything like that, but it's probably not suitable for kids. So that's 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Scratched YouTube channel. And I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below to this live stream coming up Halloween night and to the Scratch Podcast website, where you can check out past episodes of Scratched, past episodes of Hella 90s, and past episodes of Trampled Underfoot. So, again, that live stream is Wednesday, Halloween night, at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And now the last thing I wanted to talk about is a few changes to the channel. Now, in my last update, I mentioned that I was going to try to get into some more projects here and start doing more project videos. And that is going to happen starting probably November and December. I want to try to back away from doing a tutorial every week. Now, don't panic, don't freak out, you beginners who are just starting to get into this. I'm still going to be doing the tutorials. I've got several tutorial videos in the queue that I'm going to be making. It's just that I need to get out here into the shop and do some actual projects to show you that CNC is more than just cutting signs. Now, when I say that, there's absolutely nothing wrong with cutting signs. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of instant gratification. But the CNC is useful for so many other things. But I can't show you that if I'm forever using a screen capture program and running a mouse around a computer screen. So, pretty quick, the weekly tutorial videos are going to start slowing down, and there are going to be project videos intermixed in between them. My intent the entire time that I've since I started this Absolute Beginner series, was not to attempt to replace the Vectric tutorials. My intent was to augment them. I've always believed that the tutorial creators have always made the same assumption, and that is that you already know what you're doing, you just need help finding the tools in their software. What I've tried to do is assume that you've never done this before, so you need help with the basics. But once you have those basics down, you'd feel more comfortable getting into the Vectric tutorials and start using them and not relying so heavily on someone who is just teaching the basics. That was my intent anyway. I mean, I've had a couple of requests to do stacked text videos, and I really don't have any plans to create one, simply because the Vectric tutorials already cover that subject very well. Basically, I have nothing to add to the discussion. It would just basically be the same as their video in a different voice. So I don't really see any use in that. I would rather focus on something they don't cover or that they just kind of gloss over in another tutorial that I think deserves its own video. So if you're more than comfortable with the software, gaining a little bit of confidence, by all means, get into those Vectric tutorials. If you get into your software, click the Help button up on top and come down right there in that menu to Tutorial Browser. All of the tutorial videos are listed right there, both by category, what job you want to do, and by project, which project they use to demonstrate the technique or the tool pathing. So by all means, dive into those tutorials head first, binge watch them, practice them, use them, follow along as you go. Thanks for being patient. I know this is nothing really more than a talking head video, but hopefully you got something out of it, and hopefully I was able to clear up some confusion. While I'm at it, I'm going to give another shout out to Peter Pasuelo over at the CNC Nuts. Now, if you're not subscribed to the CNC Nuts YouTube channel, what can I say? You're just wrong. Peter does an excellent job. He makes some very cool projects over there. He's very informative. He explains the process, the project, and just the topic he's trying to discuss very plainly, very clearly. He's very, very good. Peter was the first CNC-based YouTube channel I subscribed to about a year before I ever even thought about building my first CNC. The amount of information that I have learned from him, I just can't quantify. Do yourself a favor. If you're not already subscribed, get over to his channel. I'll put a link in the description box below. And subscribe to his channel, then binge watch him. You will learn more than you ever thought you could. So, hopefully, if nothing else, that right there was worth watching this video for, and I thank you for hanging in with me. If you got anything at all, like my recommendation that you go subscribe to Peter as soon as this is done, give me a thumbs up down below. Now, if you want to stick around and maybe check out a few of these projects I'm going to start making, hit that subscribe button down there. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to leave them down below in the comment section. And as usual, if you'd rather not leave a public comment, head on over here to my website, marklindsaycnc.com, and hit that Contact Us link. Then you can send me any message that you would like. I read every message I get through marklindsaycnc.com, and I do my best to reply to each and every one of them. While you're over here, don't forget to take a trip over to the shop. I have a few CNC file downloads over here, and I have a range of accessories, coffee mugs, ladies' t-shirts, men's t-shirts. Perfect for the discriminating Christmas shopper. Yes, I used that word. MarkLindsayCNC.com is sponsored by Harneal Media. They are the web design and web hosting company that specializes in websites for makers and the maker community. Harneal Media, as well as I, are both proud members of the Makers Media Network. So I'll go ahead and wrap this one up here. Now, as always, whether you subscribe to my channel or not, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Y'all take care. And happy Halloween.